Alright, just a short video on cattail. Cattail, Typhus latifolia or Typhus species. There's two species that I know of, narrowleaf and broadleaf. Up here in Minnesota, we've got the broadleaf, which doesn't look very broad because it's wintertime. Again, I'm just kind of showing this because of the different stages of the cattail and its uses. You know, the supermarket of the swamp. First things first, cattails will let you know where water is. They are a water plant. Now the problem with that is that most likely the water is stagnant. That's why at least cattails can be a bit invasive, because they are a species of grass and they grow in a root system that sprouts up like this, and they can kind of take over, especially in a shallow lake. Okay, and then it'll become it'll kind of build up. A lot of sediment will collect, and then the lake is not, a lake anymore. It's just like a cattail field. In the wintertime, the cattail is edible, and in the wintertime, the energy of many plants go into the ground, right? And then they come back up, whether they're biennial, meaning they have a 2-year life cycle, or whether they're perennial, where they just come back every time. The energy goes always back to the roots. And then in springtime, the energy comes back up from the roots to flower and fruit and bud and things like that. So right now, the roots are quite edible and they're quite tasty. And they create a thickener, a starchy-like thickener. You can kind of roast or gnaw on the roots. They taste kind of like corn a little bit. It's not unpalatable at all. It's actually really tasty. And the problem is on a lake like this that's frozen, is you got to have some sort of tool to chip through the ice to get to it, right? It's best to do that in the fall, when you can, the water is, and the mud is still soft, right? You are going to get dirty. It is kind of, they grow in the mud, so you're gonna have to, get wet and get dirty to get at the roots of the cattail. So there's many different uses of the plant. Again, it's known as the supermarket of the swamp, so to speak. And again, it's wintertime. One of the uses is the flower head here, as well as the stalks, right? The stalk. The leaves can be useful as well, especially from an extreme survival situation. The cattail has creates the cattail fluff, right? Which makes a very, very good tinder. See that? And then it can get a bit messy, especially today is a very nice day in wintertime. It's 40 degrees. The sun is out. There's no wind blowing, but if there was wind blowing, this fluff would be all over the place, right? As you can see, it kind of gets everywhere. But when you open the flower head, this is what happens. You see how it just kind of wants to come undone? It's weird. It kind of almost makes my flesh crawl, but this is the fluff that'll make a good tinder for fire making. Okay, and I've done a few videos on making a tinder bundle. The grasses over there would make a good tinder bundle, and then you'd fill the middle with the cattail fluff. All right, and then you'd put a spark or make that to flame and blow it. You put a spark into the fluff and blow it to flame, the whole bundle. The leaves, you could use that as extra fuel. As a naked tinder bundle, I have never really had very much success. You need a very large amount of this tinder, in my experience, with just the cattail leaves to get the cattail leaves to ignite. All right. Also, the fluff is good for insulation, as well as the grasses here, right? So when it's cold outside, you can pack your boots, you can pack your clothing to create air pockets to keep you warm. Okay. Now there's a caveat here. Right here, you see how this is broken and it's almost standing upright. This is broken and it's standing upright. When you're harvesting, foraging, plants like that, rushes, reeds, cattails, and these stalks like this, I would suggest wearing eyewear or be very careful when you're stooping down, because you don't want to get this in your eye or in your face. You don't want to get this in your eye or your face. So a warning, be very careful when you're just bending down, because sometimes you may not see this sticking up and you might get it in the eye. So I would definitely recommend wearing some eye protection, or just go slow. Pay attention to your surrounding. Wilderness survival primitive technology is all about paying attention to the landscape and going slow. You got to slow down from the hustle and bustle of man-made infrastructure and go at the pace of nature. And nature takes its time. Yes, it sounds flowery. Yes, it's hippy-dippy, but it's a fact. And it will keep you from getting injured. See, the tops of these cattails are sharp. So, you have to respect nature and you have to go slow. All right, so I just kind of want to leave you with that. There's a couple of tips, some things to keep in mind. Also for stuffed animals, or stuffed clothing, you can make pillows. I've made an armrest for computer work, and I just filled the whole thing full of cattail fluff. I have it in me to try and make a stuffed animal just purely out of cattail fluff. I don't know if I'll follow through. We'll see what materials I have to do so, but just to show that you can use this. Now, sometimes there may be some insects in there, so you might want to be careful. You might want to be mindful. But I'm just cattail is really awesome. And again, I live in the land of 10,000 lakes, as they say. There's actually more than that. But almost every one of those lakes has some cattail around it, reeds, phragmites, things like that, which are very, very useful plants for bushcrafting and living off of the land. So again, in wintertime, this plant does have its uses. In the spring, it'll come up again and about 12 to 18 inches long. You can just kind of pop them right off the root, and the white ends are very tasty and edible if the water is clean. Okay, so oftentimes urban lakes can be filled with all kinds of stuff that's not good for your body. So it's best to, if you harvest like that, you harvest in the city, that you go and disinfect your harvest, with maybe a little bleach and water, washing it real good, and just being mindful of where you're harvesting. Still, standing water is not your friend.